Welcome to the Jayda InStitches show. November has arrived, and along with it, the 11th and second last canvas in our 2025 calendar unblanket project. All this year, we've been making rectangular canvases upon which we have applied imagery that best represents the month for us. The whole thing is designed to be a kind of a decorative calendar that you can pull out every year, each month, to cover up one of those little bare spots on the wall and celebrate the month in the way that you see fit. This month is no exception, and I wanted to do something that, well, really meant something to me. I toyed with the idea of all the different kind of calendar events that generally happen in November, but for me, November has meant craft sale season for years. I used to do craft sales. I always loved to visit craft sales. It's kind of the magical kickoff to the holiday season for me. So because so many of the craft sales happen in November, certainly where I live, I wanted to celebrate that for this month, and that's what I've done. Today I'm going to show you how I made this really simple table design. There's a couple of things you can do with it if you want to kind of make it maybe like a dining room table or a kitchen table, but I've made mine like a folding table, one of those tables you'd see like in a gym. And I also made a little miniature bunting. I'm going to show you how to do that too. Everything else you see here is an existing applique that we've done on the channel, and I'll link to them in the description box down below. That said, let's grab our hooks, grab our yarn, we'll head on over to the craft table, and we will stitch ourselves up the November unblanket together. In order to make our little craft table applique, you really only need a little bit of yarn. Maybe 2 yards each of a gray and 2 yards of a brown. I'm using a size 4 medium weight 100% acrylic yarn, but you can use whatever you like. Pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and the hook I'm using is a 5.5 millimeter, also known as an I or a 9. And once you've got that all together, we can get started. We're going to make 2 table legs to start. I'm using gray for that because I want to sort of simulate that folding table, the table that has sort of the brown wooden top but then the metal folding legs. So I'm using gray for the legs. You're going to make 2 legs. I've already made one. You're going to take your gray or whatever table leg color you want to use. Start with a slip knot and chain 14 to begin. Once you have 14 chains, skip the first chain from the hook, find the second, single crochet into it, and single crochet into each chain all the way back. At the end of this row, you'll have 13 stitches. Once you single crochet in each chain all the way back, you can fasten off, leave yourself enough tail that you can sew down that leg to your project with. Fasten off and weave in the short tail. If you need longer legs, start with a longer foundation chain. If you need shorter legs, start with a shorter foundation chain. Next, we're going to make our table top. You can make your table shorter or longer by adjusting the foundation chain row, but I want my tabletop to be pretty much the sort of just under the main width of my canvas, so I'm going to make it pretty long. I'm going to start with a foundation chain of 29. I have 29 chains in my brown yarn. Once again, if you want a longer tabletop, like a wider table, you can make a longer foundation chain. If you need a shorter tabletop, you can make a shorter foundation chain. This can vary depending on the hook and yarn you've chosen. Skip the first chain from the hook, half double crochet into the second chain, half double crochet in each chain all the way back. So if you started with 29 chains like me, you'll have 28 half double crochets at the end of this row. Once you've half double crocheted in every chain all the way back to the beginning, leave yourself a nice long tail for sewing. snip your yarn, fasten off, weave in the short tail, and make sure you're doing that on the back, and that's your tabletop done. The next thing I did was amass some of my appliques. So I have an applique make-ahead stash. Well, I'll make appliques and I'll keep them if I don't have anything to do with them immediately. So I kind of went through that stash. I actually still have it off to the side. I may still dip into it depending on if I have any open spaces or not. And I pulled out images that I thought suited a craft sale table. So things that I might find at a craft sale. And I also made myself another balloon because I thought it might look cute to have a balloon on the table. And just assembly and a sort of an assortment of little things that I thought might look cute with my craft sale table. This is my table. So that will be going down probably first because it will be underneath or behind all of the other things. And I made myself a craft sale sign. So this is one of those text boxes. We did a tutorial on this earlier in the year. I'll of course link to all of the available tutorials in the description box down below for everything you see here. And I just made it a little longer. So I chained 29 to begin, and I used single crocheted in the second chain all the way across. Chain one turn, I did 4 rows of single crochet, and then I just added a quick little border. Nothing fancy, and I stitched craft sale onto it. So that is my banner. That's the big indicator that you're at a craft sale, not a rummage sale or even a farmer's market, and that'll be going on up top. Really, all that's left to do is get the canvas made and do a layout. And here is my canvas. It's pretty straightforward as far as the canvases this year go. This is 4 rows of dark brown and 20 rows of sort of a off-white beigey color to be my background. I used green for my border, and of course I did the open top edge so that I can weave one of my dowelings through it so it can hang. This is the usual canvas. Chain 37 to begin, and then double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook. The chain 2 counts as a double crochet in each remaining chain. You'll have 36 stitches. Chain 2, turn, the chain 2 counts as a double crochet in each stitch all the way across, etc. So you have 24 rows in total of 36 stitches each. The first 4 are in dark brown, the remaining 20 are in beige. This is how I pictured sort of the basics of my craft sale. So it was sort of like you're in the local hall or the local school's gym, and you've got one of those little folding tables, and this is sort of the gym floor. This is the background. Those concrete cylinder block walls are never a very nice color, but you know, light enough. And then of course I've got a little craft sale, and I was sort of picturing it like sort of written across like that paper that's on a roll and then sort of taped to the wall. So I think I'm going to try and make it look like it's actually taped to the wall. That'll be something I do sort of near the end. That's a small little detail. But this is the general layout, and then I was going to just put things on the table, maybe a couple things in front of the table. Obviously my table has to be stitched down first, and I'll probably stitch down my craft sale sign as well, because those things are considered background. Everything else will be going in the foreground. So I think that's what I'm going to do first. I've stitched down my sign, so my sign's all down, and now I'm going to do the table. Obviously I need to do the table legs first. I want them to kind of lean in a little bit, so I have pinned the bottoms in place, and I just kind of keep deciding where I want that tabletop to be, and then I'm going to sew down the legs on a little angle, so they're each going to angle in a little bit, and then I'll be sewing the tabletop down on top of the table legs, because the legs need to look like they're kind of up underneath the edge of the table. So that's what I'm doing now. I have stitched down my table, so my legs are stitched down first. The tabletop is stitched down over top of it, so now it looks like, you know, the legs sort of disappear underneath that lip of the table. So my table is in place, my craft sale sign is up. I'm gonna worry about the little kind of gluing or the little tape pieces at the very end. First, what I want to do is now go through all of my appliques and start laying them out where I think I'd like them. So for example, you know, I'm thinking about the things that I'm selling at my craft table, or what I might see on a craft sale table, kind of if I was out in the market for some crafts. So I'm going to go through I've got a whole bunch of things here. I still have a gigantic bag of additional appliques that I've made, and I'm going to go through that and see if anything sort of suits my little craft table. So far, this is what I've got. I've got my table, I've got a few little sort of offerings on my table, and a couple of little things sort of sitting on the floor in front of it. I'm trying to decide if I I kind of like this. I think it looks like I've got sort of oversized stuffed toys or sort of something sort of sitting on the table, like, or on the floor just in front of the table. And then I've got a couple of little Christmas trees. But I have this open spot up here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch all of the stuff on the table down, second guess, and then eventually stitch down something on the floor. I think I need something on the floor. And then I'm considering making a miniature bunting to kind of go all the way across the wall underneath my craft sale sign. But I'm still considering it. So let me get all this stitched down and I'll see you in a moment. I've stitched down a few things on my little craft table, and I think I've decided that I don't actually want anything on the floor in front of it. I like seeing the legs of the table. But I do want to fill in this space, so I'm going to make a little miniature bunting. To that end, I've grabbed some really fun multicolored yarn so that I don't actually have to make a bunch of individually colored little pendants, or pennants, I suppose. And I'm going to use my 5.5mm hook, the I9, my scissors and my yarn needle, and I'm just going to stitch up a quick little miniature bunting. So if you want to make one along with me, grab some yarn and I'll show you how I'm doing that. I'm going to take my yarn, make a slip knot, and I'm going to chain 5. And this whole chain thing is going to be the actual string that the little pennants are actually hanging off of. And I want it to look like it's kind of come in from one side of the gym or the room that I'm in. And then I'm going to have little pennants, sort of how they look when it's sort of strung up like a bunting. So I'm going to chain 5 to begin. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to put in a pennant. And I'm going to build the whole thing in one go. I'm going to chain 4. I'm going to skip the first chain from the hook, slip stitch into the next chain, single crochet into the next chain, and half double crochet into the chain after that. That's my little pennant. It's a little triangle. I'm going to put 4 chains, I think, in between my pennants so that I can kind of hang them up and have a little bit of space between them. So 4 chains in between, chain 4. For the new pennant, skip the first chain, slip stitch into the second chain, single crochet into the next chain, half double crochet into the last of those 4 chains, and there is a second pennant, and they're sort of strung 4 chains apart. Chain 4 again, that's the strings in between, chain 4 again, and turn it into a pennant, slip stitch into the second chain, single crochet into the next chain, half double crochet into the 4th chain, and there's 3 pennants. I'm going to go along like this until I have something that I can drape comfortably across the wall of my background. This is going to be sort of hung up underneath my craft sale sign. So I can make this a little longer. I don't want to make it so that it stretches straight across. I want it to kind of curve like a bunting kind of does. So I'm going to work away at this. I'm going to keep comparing it against the background of my canvas, and I'll show you how long it gets. All right, I've been working away, adding little pennants here. There's 4 chains in between each triangle, and what I'm doing is I'm kind of just draping it and sort of acting like I would be hanging it on an actual wall. And I want to see sort of how many of these I can fit in before I need to hang up the sort of the other, to put the other 5 chains on, sort of have it anchored. And I feel like this looks pretty even. Maybe I have 3 down and then another 3, and then maybe, have I got room for another 3? Maybe not. Let's do 2 in the middle. I think that's maybe just 1. What would it look like if I just did 1? Maybe just 1. There we go. So I've got 8. I've made 8 pennants or 8 triangles. So once I've got my last one made, I'm going to add 5 chains at the end so that it's the same. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that it's the same on both sides. So I'll have it anchored kind of in both in the same places, and then I'm going to just tuck up one end to the underside of my craft sale sign. So it looks like I've got like a little celebratory banner running across it. I'm going to leave a long tail, and then I'm just going to stitch it down kind of loosely across the top edge of my banner. I'm going to leave the little pennants to sort of float in the breeze. So that is it. I will cut off enough tail for sewing. I'm just going to stitch down the top edge, and just to keep it from moving, I'll probably pin it into place. So once again, I'm going to just have my two ends anchored like this, and then the middle anchored up like that. I'm going to stitch down along the top edge, and that'll be my banner made. All stitched down. Now I've got a celebratory little banner hanging across the background or the back wall behind my little craft table. And I thought about sort of making it look like I had some tape or something running across the corners, but I couldn't really get anything to look the way I wanted it to. I sort of experimented with some scrap yarn, and I don't know. I think I'm just going to leave that the way it is. I like that little sign. Maybe it's sort of taped to the back wall and you can't see the tape. Either way, I think the banner helps kind of give a little something to the background. And I've just got a handful of things on my table. I really liked the way the legs came out, so I decided I didn't want to really put anything in front of them. And yeah, sometimes less is more. I'm really pleased with the way this came together. I had originally thought I was gonna sort of put a bunch of things on the floor and kind of like at the sides of the table, but I didn't really have anything that suited the craft sale so much, and I honestly didn't want to cover up the legs of the table. I think that table really sells the idea of being at a craft show. So I put a couple of my favorite little crafts on the table, and I love my sign in the bunting. I think that's just, the whole thing together kind of says, you're at a craft show. And that's a big part of November for me. I can't wait to see what November means to all of you. And if you've got a picture you want to share with us of your calendar unblanket projects, be sure to pop into our Etsy shop. The link is in the description box down below, and you can message us there and include a photo. And I would love to see them. We are enjoying sharing them over on the tabs, or the post tab of our YouTube channel here. We love to share everybody's photos, and it just sort of has become kind of a neat place to get inspiration. So if you're still kind of wondering what to do for November or any of the other previous months, or maybe even December, then that's a great place to stop in and see what other people are doing as well. I hope you enjoyed stitching along with me this month, and we will see you soon here on the Jayda and Stitches Show. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have a great week. Bye guys!
Hi everybody! Mr. InStitches here. Thank you for watching today. Here are some of our other videos you might be interested in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.